Okay, so in this video, we're just going to have a little bit of a closer look as to setting up the lights, positioning them, balancing them, and getting that whole thing going. Now, before we look at the actual lights that I've got here in front of me and start that discussion, I just want to talk to you about the room, the ambient light that we've got here. Now, I hadn't anticipated that you'd turn off your lights and purely work off of these two little LEDs. They're really not designed for that. We could have gone for big soft boxes, 3 light setup around us. I didn't want to do that. I want something nice and compact that's easy to fit into an office space. And the reason I went for these lights that do the color temperature is because we can match in with the light that's going on in the room. Now let me demonstrate. So in this room at the minute, I've got, you'll see now, I've just got some spotlights as it happened. I didn't design it this way, but I got some recessed spotlights up there, and they're actually lighting up the back of the room. Now take a look when I turn these lights off, how different it is. Okay, doesn't that look different? So this is what these lights are now doing. They're just working on me, and you're starting to see exactly what's going on. That's better, isn't it? Now, like I say, I didn't anticipate that we're lighting up 2 little lights here and not going to light up this whole room. If we try and push these so that they're casting light right back there, then guess what's going to happen? I'm going to really get bright and blown out at the front here. So if you're needing to do that, certainly in this kind of space, you're probably going to need another couple of lights behind you, purely lighting up that background. This is why when someone asked me the other day about white walls or green screen even, you really do need a lot of lights to get a good even balance going on over there. So the reason we've got these color temperature ones is that I want you to work in the natural light that you're in. So whether that's a fluorescent light that's in the room or it's spotlights or whatever it is you work in that space, whether it's daylight coming in, I want that to be lighting the room up. That was my expectation. And really these 2 lights here are just sitting working on me. So the fact that we've got the color temperature in here, the changing, I'm going to put a little chart at the bottom of this video that you can download and just illustrate to you how those settings work. But the idea is that I don't know how much you know of this, but when you go from room to room sometimes, you can really see that it looks whiter or bluer, and then in another room it can feel warmer. Quite often it's the kind of table lamps or the bedside table lamps, as I kind of think, that tend to be a warmer light, and an office fluorescent light would be a lot whiter. And with the lights that we've got here, we can actually adjust that temperature to match it. So what we're doing is we're going, right, what is the color like in this room? And then I can dial into it. Now, actually, I bought daylight bulbs in this room that are 5,000 Kelvin. And so I can check the settings on here and pretty much match up to what I think should be 5,000 Kelvin. And then that means that the lights I've brought in are totally complementing the existing light that's in the room. This is the problem you get if you just get some soft boxes or bring that in and they're set to a color. Quite often you can end up looking quite pink or purple when you're balancing in with the color that's already going on in the room. And that's what we don't want, and that's why these are the only lights that I use these days, because we're balancing it to the existing ambient room. If we turned all the lights off, then I really don't need to be paying for these ones that change the temperature. I could just get a set of soft boxes if they're the only light that's going on in the room. Okay, so I think I've laboured that point a bit too much. You need some ambient light going on in the room, and these 2 spotlights that I'm going to talk about now, LED lights, are very much for you as the subject. Okay, so I've grabbed my tape measure. We're going to do this properly. I quite loosely say in the training in the academy that these are at 45-degree angles to me. Now you can see on the wider view here what's going on, and actually I realise it, they're probably a bit tighter in than 45 degrees. If I think I'm going from here and then straight off to my side is 90 degrees, well 45 should be halfway between the 2 of them. In reality, this is really technical here, isn't it? So in reality, they should probably be a little bit further out than what I've got them now. And the reason I've brought them in is that I find that they just cast a bit of a shadow. So really the reason we're doing these 2 lights like this is, if I just had one on, let me demonstrate to you and show what happens from one light. In fact, what I'll do is for now, I'm going to turn off these backlights because it will make it an even stronger impression of what's going on with the lights. Okay, so that's the backlights off again. Now let's knock one of these lights out. Okay, so that's what one light is doing. In fact, shall we turn that off and you can just see exactly what this room is like without any light here. So the reason we're running these two lights and we've got them pretty much mirroring each other is one on its own would cast a shadow and the other one is balancing it out and really knocking out those shadows. So we're trying to get as even as possible a light. Now let me just show you what I mean. If I flick this light off for a minute, you can see that I'm getting a shadow. The light's only coming in this side, so I'm getting a shadow down this side of my face. Actually, out of interest, let's flick this light off as well, and you can see exactly what these lights are doing, or what it would be like if I didn't have any lights going on. So now that's just the back of the room that's lit up by my ambient room lights anyway. Let's flick these back on, and you can just see what's happening. And does that make sense, how that's knocking out these shadows? Now, if I were to bring these lights further in, it would potentially knock out some of this shadowing, but I like them out there. I think if we bring it in too tight, then we're getting back to this scenario of like a ring light and just having one beam of light coming straight forward. This looks more natural, the fact that it's coming in, it's kind of wrapping around me, this light. And so I reckon these are probably nearer to 40 or 35 degrees out, but you can see on this wider shot that I'm running here, kind of what's going on. Now, in terms of how far away are they from me? Well, I'm actually sitting at the minute, where are we? Let's say I'm about 75, 80 centimeters from the camera. That's how close I get to sit with this lovely 20mm lens on top of my Panasonic camera. Now, I tend to just stick my lights on the same line, on the same plane there, that my camera's on. So they're not closer to me, they're not further away particularly, in fact maybe just slightly further back at the minute, but actually distance from me to the light is about 110 centimeters here. So that gives you a feel for how close these want to be, and ideally I would be mirroring them up. And what I've done is they're not at eye level, they're about a foot, they're about 30 centimeters higher than what my eye level is. Now, I'm saying this because you've asked me for a guide and for specifics on where these lights want to go. What I would say is there's no hard and fast rules with this. And if you want to have a bit of a play around with it, if you want to bring the lights in or take them further out or have one sitting higher than another, you could turn one up a bit higher and let the other one sit very much as the fill. So it's just filling in the shadows, but that's very much a dominant light from one side. All I've done here is to really put these side by side. They're pretty much mirrored out from the camera. The distance one is one way, the distance the other is from the other side. They're sitting at the same height, they're on exactly the same settings, and that's going to give me really as soft as possible an image. So meet my light. I'm bringing him in a bit close to just, I want to show you a tip on here, and I don't really mention it or recommend it in the course, but let me show you it here. Now what you've got is a diffuser. This light is actually a slightly different one. I'd got these before I bought the Neewer lights. So because they're identical, I got two of these and then I bought one of the Neewers just to try it and see how it compared. It really does exactly the same and it was way cheaper, which is why I stuck with that for the course. But I tend to just use these because they're identical and they're easier to match up. Now yours has got the sheet across the front of it. You peel the white off of it so it becomes transparent. And the idea is you're dropping that into there, and what it's doing is it's just softening down the glare of this light. So you're not seeing the little LED lights, it's softening it. Now I don't find that softens it enough. So what I've done here is to simply grab a sheet of tracing paper. You can see there what it's doing. And this works like a softbox. If you've ever seen guys in a studio and they have these big softboxes, the idea is, the thinking really is that what you want to do is to get that light as big as possible. The bigger the light source, the softer it's going to be and the more flattering it's going to be on you, because it's really going to knock out any shadows. Now, we haven't gone to this extent. You know, for me, when I'm looking at this academy, trying to decide exactly what to pitch to you, there isn't an option with softboxes that lets me set the color, and the color temperature is the key thing for me because we're matching in with ambient light. So I've got soft boxes, they sit up in my attic, they never get used. This is what I have. But what I've done as a bit of a compromise is to just put some tracing paper over the front of this. And what you'll notice is I don't stick it flat to it because that's not going to have anywhere near as much of an impact. But I let it come out and I literally kind of leave it flapping like that. So it's actually creating a softer light, and actually it's made the thing look a little bit bigger. So straight away, that's what I've done. And I've now got a softer light coming through there. And it's actually given the impression that this light is slightly bigger than it really is. So there's a little tip. If you can find it in a craft shop, I would think probably an A3 size sheet of paper, tracing paper if you can. I bought this on a roll of it, a bit over the top really. It's about 20 meters long, but it was something I use when I'm tracing up windows doing property shots. But I'm not suggesting you go out and buy that. So if you can find some, definitely a bit of masking tape or something, just stick it on there and let it bubble out. And it's, like I say, it's the same as what I've got with my lights around the house anyway, just so that nothing is casting such a strong shadow. Think of it like being out on a sunny day and you've got that shadow on the floor, really defined line around it. And then if you get an overcast day, you get no shadow at all. You get a much softer light. And that's really what we're doing here. We're just trying to widen out that light source a little bit and soften it down so we're not getting any harsh, strong light coming through. But I can put that back now. And like I say, I'm not sweating really as to where that is. I am going to lift it back again a bit. And there we go, lights back in place. Now, I don't mention this inside the academy, but as a last resort, if you're struggling, you can get little umbrellas like these. And the idea is this thing goes out like this and you shine your light into it. And again, like I was just saying, that is then going to create a bigger light source. So when you've got that in front of you, it really does wrap the light around you. But we shouldn't be needing it. I haven't mentioned it because I don't actually use it. These lights here are for taking off on site when I'm doing other things. So it's there if you get stuck. Then, and these things, you can buy a couple of these lights and the little brackets that you'll need to go with it. Probably $20, $30 at the most for the whole kit. So it's not a big expense, but I'm trying to keep this simple. I don't want it to be faffy and have you thinking you got to set all this stuff up. The beauty of these lights is you turn them on, they'll come back to the setting you had them before. A little bit of paper over the top if you want to, and you're up and running. Now I've got some advice for you. What I recommend is don't go into this, and I've said this elsewhere about batching and things. Don't just kind of run into this and expect to do a whole day's filming and then get to the end and put it on your computer and go, oh, I'm not really happy with that. Why don't you record something and just talk to the camera, not as a video that you need to keep, but set this up roughly how you want. Record something to camera. Bring it into your computer and have a look at it. Are you happy with it? And by all means, I'd love it if you posted it up into one of our Facebook groups and said, what do you think to this? And let us discuss with you whether we think you've got it right. Chances are you've got it spot on anyway. But if you want some feedback, do it like that. So have a little practice with it. And then when you're happy, you can run in and do your batch of videos. So I think really the last thing I wanted to say was that I've put a little diagram in that just shows the two dials on the back and gives you some idea of how the temperatures work in different situations. I've mentioned briefly before, and I've definitely in another video inside the Academy, the fact that you can dial this in and balance it into the lights that you've got. But there is a little handout that you can take away, and we've done another one as well for roughly the layout of this room, just showing you distances of where the lights are so that hopefully you can set it up if you want some guidance. But please, as I say, don't be thinking, oh no, I can't manage to get it just there, like Adrian said. Chill out, it's all right. This is purely there as a guide to get you started. If, for instance, you can't get the light on this side at the same distance because there's a desk or something there, well, put it further back and turn it up brighter. And yeah, there you go. So hopefully that's helped you out and given you some, filled in maybe a bit of a gap, bit of a blank space as to what you should be doing. And I'll see you in another video.